The ATO have sent a number of directors letters warning the directors that they might be in breach of the conditions that require directors to ensure that companies can pay their pay-as-you-go withholding, super guarantee and GST on time. Please don't ignore these warnings if you've received one. Directors can be found personally liable for those debts if they fail to actively manage the debts of the company. Now, this is an ATO initiative. There is also a rule in the Companies Act that states that directors must not operate a company when it's operating insolvent. Now, there's a few definitions floating around of insolvency, but generally it's found to be if you operate a company and you cannot pay your debts as and when they fall due, you're generally held to be trading insolvent. Now, that includes ATO bills. So if you enter into arrangement with the ATO, you're pretty much putting your hand up and saying, we're insolvent. So be really careful of entering into arrangements with the ATO. I know we've become accustomed to using the ATO as a nice low interest loan or lower interest loan, but there are some real dangers with that, both from the ATO, depending on what it is that you've not paid, pay-as-you-go withholding, super and GST obligations. If they're behind, you've basically breached the ATO rules as well as the ASIC rules. Now, I've seen liquidators look at ATO debts and the history of debts, and they've actually used that to prove that directors have traded insolvent. So that would make the directors personally responsible for those debts, and those liquidators can sell your house, they can sell all of your assets to recover the money. So the ATO's course of action is they can notice the garnishee against your income. They can actually offset any credit that you might be entitled to as well. So if the director is entitled to a credit or a refund in their tax return, the ATO is entitled to grab that and apply it against the company's debt. And that's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense because they're two different things, but the ATO does have the right to do that. Now, the penalties get worse because instead of just having to pay the debt and the interest, there are severe penalties if you don't report the amount to the ATO. So if you're late lodging your BAS, it means you haven't reported the amount to the ATO. I know that I sometimes hear clients saying, I don't want to lodge the BAS because I can't pay it. It's just doubling the problem. Lodge the BAS and try and enter into a payment plan. It's not the ideal thing. We want to avoid all of that if we can, but don't avoid lodging the BAS because you can't pay it. You're just making the problem worse. So both ASIC and the ATO are becoming much more aggressive with their approach to directors and the way that people trade. And I suspect it has a bit to do with the number of building companies that are having problems at the moment. So if you do receive one of those letters from the ATO, please let us know. Also, just be aware of entering into payment arrangements with the ATO. It's not as straightforward as it once was. Don't forget to subscribe so that you receive all of the tips and updates, and click on the link to watch the next video.